Hi, so as you can probably tell by the title, this video is going to be about intelligence. And a lot of people think that intelligence is something really abstract and it's not something you can really define that well, but like when you see someone who's intelligent, right? That point it's really like easy to tell, hey, that person's smart, right? But if intuitively, we can tell that when we see someone who's intelligent, then why is it so hard to define? And I think that kind of stems from like the idea that there's like multiple kinds of ways you could be intelligent. So you could be intelligent in different like fields. So like you could be a very creative person, you have a lot of creative intelligence, but you're not that good at math. Like you don't like rigid rules, or you don't really do well when you have that. Or you could be in the opposite scenario where like given some like rules, you can really perform and solve like really complex puzzles, right? Um, but for me, this is kind of like missing the whole point, right? Because when why do we even need intelligence in the first place, right? We need intelligence to solve problems. Like even in the creative example, right? You're faced with a creative problem. Like you have to make art, right? Let's say you work at a company and you're making a logo, like these are all creative problems, and so problem solving is what I would say is kind of like the task that is basically the best judge for whether or not someone is intelligent. And so one thing to notice here is that this is true regardless of domain. So you could give problems for a specific domain and then you can check basically whether or not that person is intelligent. But even that definition is kind of rigid. So I mean kind of loose. So for me, I kind of have this working definition where I would kind of basically describe it how I've kind of come to think of what I would basically use to judge intelligence. So like think of a Rubik's Cube, for example, right? So the goal of a Rubik's Cube is to have all the sides of the Rubik's Cube be the same color, right? But um, what happens is there's like multiple different strategies that you can use to solve the Rubik's Cube. And so let's just go through some of them, right? So one of the strategies would be just, randomly um, moving each side, right? Each side that can move in all directions, right? And eventually, just due to probability, right, there is going to be a random chain of kind of movements that will lead you to the solution because that's how randomness works, right? But the thing is, there's nothing intelligent per se going on there. That's just like random chance. Like you can program a computer without any like machine learning or anything like that just to do random, just try every random possibility. Like we wouldn't really consider that as intelligent. Then you can have another approach where you just take one side of the Rubik's Cube, right? And you just keep turning it in a circle, right? That's your strategy for solving the Rubik's Cube, right? So I wouldn't consider that intelligent also. And in fact, I would even consider that worse than random, right? Because at least with the random method, you actually reach a solution, right? Given enough time. But with this method where you're just turning one side, right, you're never going to reach a solution. So I would not consider that an intelligent way of solving the problem of a Rubik's Cube, right? And so now what would be an intelligence strategy? So an intelligence strategy would be basically figuring out some kind of underlying logic, right, through trial and error of the Rubik's Cube and using that underlying logic to kind of solve the Rubik's Cube. So like basically developing a strategy that better than random chance will get you to the solution. So basically figuring out how a Rubik's Cube works and then applying that knowledge to solve the problem. And So those are basically the three examples for me that provide a pretty clear definition of what is intelligence. So in one, you're better than random, and you have a strategy, which I would consider intelligent. One is just randomness, which can be done by a computer. So I don't know if you want to call that intelligence. And then the other one is like not intelligent at all because you're never gonna basically solve the problem, which I argued earlier is how we determine whether or not someone is intelligent. So yeah, there you go. Those are my views on intelligence, and I'm open to suggestions or comments or even critiques. What do you guys think? Let me know. Am I crazy? Are there better ideas out there? All right, thanks.